Hello, everybody, and welcome to There's a Will for this week, the last weekend in August of 2023. Summer drawing to a close, at least summer vacation, school starting soon, and the world changes just a little bit from our summertime dreams into more reality as we go back to regular work and regular school. Okay, I have as my guest today Olgierd Uziemblo from Zembrov. Is that correct? You're in Zembrov,
Yes.
aren't you? I see your bookshelves behind you, sir. Yeah, good to see you. How are things?
Hello.
How are things?
Oh, really excellent. I'm still alive. That counts for something.
Yeah, that's always a good day. You know, I'm dressed like this because I just came in off the road. I've been on a road trip filming.
All right.
Now, have you ever been to Łagów, Lubuszki, west of Poznan on the A2 there? I think it's the A2, isn't it?
No, I haven't been there.
Beautiful place. Started there, filming for Poland Daily Travel. Started there. There's a Crusader castle built by the Knights of St. John. It's wonderfully preserved. They have a film festival there you may have heard of, the Łagów Film Festival, yeah? It takes place in the castle. It's amazing. I was there some time ago. Oh, I've been a couple of times, I guess, but it's been a while. And
How far is it from Licheń?
from where?
From Licheń.
Is that
the giant
the big church? The big church?
Yeah.
Well, the big church is in Konin. So Konin's about 200 kilometers from Warsaw.
No, I'm talking about Łagów. How far is that?
Łagów is beyond Poznan.
Beyond. Okay, that is
Yeah.
before Poznan.
It's
Okay.
getting on to the road when you would turn north to go to Gorzów, Wielkopolska,
Okay.
and to the north to western Pomerania. Yeah, it's on the edge of that, but fantastic place. It's a castle, as I say, built by these crusaders who came to Poland, invited in by Kazimierz the Great. They built this phenomenal stronghold between two lakes. So very defensible. It's got two huge moats called lakes, and beautifully built. The real thing, a sort of, a tiny Malbork, if you like, because Malbork's so huge, but really a beautiful thing, and a great place to have a film festival. It looks like a nice place to spend some quiet time as well. I think it costs about $100 to stay, 400 zlotys to stay in the castle, so get a nice room there. I mean, spare, but it's a castle. You're not supposed to be like a Holiday Inn, I suppose. At any rate, that was a lot of fun, and then we moved on to the Odra River. Now, are you familiar with the Odra north of Frankfurt, on the way to Szczecin?
No.
Yeah, a lot of
The only place I've been to was Szczecin and Stargard.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know this area, but it's really, really beautiful. You can go to. There's a place called Kostrin, nad Odra, Kostrin on the Odra, or Kusten as the Germans called it, for centuries. And have you been there at all, or heard of it?
I've only heard about the festival that is there.
Yeah, the Woodstock thing, right?
Yeah, the Woodstock thing. Yeah.
Which is there. That's one of the two huge rock festivals, Polish music mostly, that happen in the summer. Anyway, it's a really interesting place, and I'll tell you a funny story. So I needed to book a hotel there. I was tempted for us to stay in Łagów and do more filming there because it's so beautiful. But we needed really to finish our trip along the Odra. We started on the border at Bohumín with the Czech Republic, down there near Ratchabórz, way down there, and going all the way to Świnoujście along the Odra. That was our idea. So in fact, that's what we continued to do, and got a hotel called the Hotel Bastion. There are not a lot of hotels, nice hotels in Kostrin. I don't want to do the town down, and actually there's not a lot of Kostrin in Kostrin, because the entire old town was completely eradicated by the Russians and the Germans fighting there in 1945. Did you know that?
Yeah, That is fate of so many cities in Poland.
Yeah, it's a total ghost town now. They have the roads actually with German names, but there's nothing there except some foundations, and a lot of things have grown up. But you can walk down the roads as if it were a ghost town, but without any buildings. And
Well, I can show you something really weird. It's in the center of of Warsaw.
what's that?
Well, in the place I was born to live in the center of Warsaw, there were some old buildings right next to Alei Jerozolimskiej in the very center of the city, and they had been destroyed in order to make way for new buildings in what 30 years ago, and they were not rebuilt. They are inside the block of buildings, so you cannot see them from Alei. But inside, you've got actually new grown overgrowth with trees 20 years old. It's really weird.
It is weird, and that's what this place is like too. And there are, as you say, a lot of places in Poland, and what was the old Germany that are leveled. Certainly areas that are leveled. I mean, Wrocław is completely rebuilt, isn't it? For example, yeah.
Wrocław.
Yeah. Szczecin largely had to be reconstructed. Yeah, but we'll get to Szczecin in just a second. Now, we went. So the hotel we stayed in was called the Bastion. Now, the Bastion Hotel, I was wondering, why did they call it the Bastion? We got there late, we were tired, so, just had some supper, and that was it. And lived to fight another day. And I said, but I went to sleep thinking, why is this place called the Bastion? Because there's a huge fortress. The walls of the fortress are right there behind the hotel, and behind a sort of strip mall shopping center that's there. So you could actually walk around that strip mall just a stone's throw from the hotel and walk into there, which would have been nice. I was going, oh, so there's no place to walk. This is just gas stations and stuff, because it's a transit point, right? You come across the bridge and there's the Hotel Bastion, but you don't see it unless you go around the corner to go to Germany, this huge, great walls of the fortress. So I found the answer as to why it was called Bastion.
Have you seen Szczecin's underground city?
No, didn't have time to investigate and some great museums too. Didn't have time to investigate that.
That's another very interesting place, talking about old German fortifications and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff all along the Siegfried line that they created. There's also the place near Gorzów, between the A2 and Gorzów, which is very interesting too. As I say, part of the Siegfried line, which was the line of defense on the border of, or just beyond the border of Germany, or just within the border of Germany at that time. At any rate, you know all that. Anybody can look up Siegfried line and find out exactly where it was. It's fascinating stuff. And I'd love to see what you're suggesting there in Szczecin. But before we get to Szczecin, and I'll let you, you've been to Szczecin a few times, have you?
Just a few times, long time ago.
So you can you'll tell me about Szczecin in a minute, because I don't know it at all. I've been twice to Szczecin, and both times just overnight stay and then not really seeing the city very much. Because, as I say, our objective was really to show the offbeat places, off the beaten track places along the Oder, and there's some phenomenal places. After Kościan, you go to Sedeni, na przykład, for example, right? And this is where you had the battle, 972, the battle between Polish King Mieszko and the German representatives of the time. And I guess you know about this battle. I think every school child learns about this battle, don't they? It's a sort of defining first battle of Poland, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. In the later perspective, it became the first battle of the Polish kings again. Well, historically, kind of unimportant Mark Grabia of one of the local places in Germany, in the Reich of the time.
Yeah, it's but it's there's not much there, but there's a couple of things. You can go see the marker where about the battle. It's not exactly where the battle took place, but you can also see well, have a nice view from there. But just a little bit down the road from Sedeny is the westernmost part of Poland. Now, have you been there?
Nope.
Yeah, it's right on the river, and there's a rock there, and you know it's the westernmost part because on the rock it says...
Because that's what they wrote on the rock.
It says on the rock, yeah. In case you're confused, you need confirmation.
No, I think it was a part of the effort in the communist times when they were so-called the retaken lands.
Yeah.
And Poland was really insistent on reclaiming them and finding the historical, the historical policy that the Soviet times always brings with itself. So those lands were historically Polish because 1,000 years ago, Mieszko won a battle there. I hope nobody is going to change borders now, but historically speaking, is not so clear-cut as Polish history would like to believe it.
Yeah, and that's really true. That's a great point. How movable these borders have been over time, and even by, several hundred kilometers in places.
You have to realize that the fact that those lands belong to Poland now are used by Russians right now to say that we should be grateful.
Right,
that they gave us those lands.
Yeah, wasn't it sweet of them? But they took all those other lands on the other side that were traditionally Poland, the great marshlands.
Thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, but we still have to be grateful because of our great white father in Moscow.
Yes, they're very, very caring czar types. Yeah, all right, so once you leave, and there's a border crossing there as well. There's lots of little bridge border crossings. So you can very easily
get... By the way, have you been to Görlitz, to Zgorzelec?
Long time ago, yeah.
Oh.
Long time.
Because it's also along the same border, and there was a very interesting musical festival over there.
Yeah.
Recently.
Interesting place.
I would suggest to you next summer to follow something which is called Tabor. Do you know what is Tabor?
No. What's that?
That's the old name for the caravan of gypsies, if you can call them that name. I believe they're called travelers now.
Yeah.
And Tabor, in modern musical way, it is usually a traveling group of musicians that are performing, making dance meetings for local people. And they were just having a very nice Tabor in Zgorzelec, I believe, and also in Lublin. So
when?
Like across Poland.
When does that happen? Because that's very interesting.
It just happened. You need to be in the groups that are interested in traditional or folk or heritage music. There is a lot of them now, and there's really a lot of things happening with them. And there is a lot of dancing.
I bet. That's all good stuff. Well, this is the classic gypsies around the campfire, right? Or
but this is all traditions mixed together, and this is really nice. And there are dancing meetings in Warsaw. You should go.
Yeah, I'm going to try my Texas two-step.
Do you know where?
No.
You know where the Domy Centrum?
Where exactly?
Domy Centrum, right between Wars and Sava.
Oh, right. The old shopping center, yeah.
Old shopping center, and you've got a dancing meeting there every afternoon after 4 o'clock.
Really?
And it's so-called generational dancing. So it is supposed to meet all the generations. There are really a lot of people there.
Huh.
Take a look if you have time.
When is that? What day?
Every day, I believe, in the summertime.
In the summer. Well, we're running. I have to go quick. I have to go this week because the summer's fading quickly, just like Mr. Putin, we hope. So, all right. Then you carry on, and there's actually you go from Sedeny, and then this rock, and then you can go through the forest, right, and end up exactly by by the river, which is fantastic. There's no one there because it's a really narrow paved road that you go along. And some places you have to pull over to let the other car pass. No traffic at all. And absolutely beautiful stuff. And at some points you are on the road right next to the river. So if you turn left, if you're going that direction and you turn left too hard, you'll be in the river. I don't advise that.
Well,
Looks like it's pretty deep there.
well, that was one of the most efficient, no, not most efficient, the biggest military operations was crossing that river by Russians.
Yeah, you can see why, because some of those places pretty wide. It gets very wide, and then of course you get up to Szczecin. Actually, there's a place called the Valley of Love that I found by mistake. We were driving along, and I just suddenly, on a higher also road through the country, and I said, I want to get down to the river. There was a place I said, I'm going to go there. It looked like a nice village in the valley. And I turned and went down there, and that's where this road was. And then I found it was called the Valley of Love, Dolina Miłości, Valley of Love, and was created by some German nobleman, 120 years ago or something. And there it was, this beautiful road by the river. And it stops at Krajnik, Nad Oder, which is another crossing point. And it's also funny because every crossing point, all the signs are in German. It reminds me of the old days. But or when you go to Ukraine, they're in Polish because things are cheaper. They used to be anyway in Ukraine, and things are cheaper in Poland till today. So if you want to buy cigarettes and you live across the river, go to Poland. If you want to buy fruits and vegetables and things, go to Poland. It's just across the river. If you want to, eat a nice meal at half the price, go to Poland. Go get you some home-style cooking. It's really fun. And there are a lot of Germans who take advantage of this. Everywhere Germans, you hear them speaking German, and you see them. So that's really cool too, I thought. That whole cross-border traffic that still exists, even though we're in the European Union, because Poland being on the zloty makes things cheaper. All right. And then, okay, now you get up to Szczecin, which is this huge port, actually. As far as you can see, cranes for cargo and moorings for boats. River's very large there. Tell me about Szczecin, your sort of...
Well, Szczecin was not, as you probably have noticed, I'm more into Eastern Poland than to Western Poland. And Szczecin for me was just a crossing point when, in the old times when I was still a Boy Scout. So I visited the Princess of Szczecin, the Princess Palace. Yeah. Pałac Książąt. And I've heard about the underground city, but I've only read and heard about it. Never went there. And then we were traveling quickly to some other places. And yeah.
But Szczecin's famous for its port, of course. But,
of course, the port.
It's huge. I mean, Wrocław
is
National
Museum.
Wrocław is playtime, little boats. No big boats there, but huge boats. River boats and canal boats and even tankers coming in through there. I don't know how they get them out. It must not be so easy. They have to go out through the Swinna River, don't they? Or on the canals?
Yeah, there was some problem with this new Russian, the Nord Stream initiative.
Yeah. Because
it was kind of blocking the exit to the ports, and there were some protests around that. There was some really heavy boxing with Germans, and until Uncle Putin started his war, we seem to be losing that war, that boxing match.
Yeah.
But I believe now they have partially changed their mind, although Germans are still sure they need to do business with Russians.
Well, that's certainly one of the big problems with what's happening in Ukraine now is that the Germans seem to be talking out of both sides of their mouth on the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, since the beginning.
But getting back to Szczecin, it's a very good starting point to wander around Pomorze. That's a really beautiful places. And adjacent to Szczecin area, there is this giant ex-military field,
Okay, I didn't
the
know that.
giant Dravsky polygon,
Uh-huh.
and that's a very interesting
It's
thing if you like
from
nature.
German times or Russian times? Or what?
It's from Soviet times. It was one of the biggest military fields in entire Warsaw Pact.
Okay, I didn't know that. Interesting.
It's
Yeah.
near Drawsko, and there are lakes. It's for Olgierd Drawskie, and we really enjoyed it when we were Boy Scouts.
I
It
bet.
was still in the Soviet times, so
Yeah. Yeah.
so we were able to travel there, and I do have really fond memories of that place.
No, nice. I mean,
And
Western.
all the way to and along the Baltic Sea, right up to Kołobrzeg, also very interesting trip.
Yeah, from Volyn Island to Kłobrzeg is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice. It's beautiful. Volyn. Okay, then you get when you leave Szczecin, you're going pretty fast
Volyn, Uznam, yeah.
to Volyn, yeah, which is this known for its Viking heritage. Actually, it was one of their places where they like to take off, I guess, down the Odra and onto other rivers and go down into Poland. But the Oder, in some ways, seems easier to navigate than the Wisła, the Vistula, because it's deeper and more navigable.
Simply because Vistula is running over the very sandy country, so it does not get really into.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of changing of the course,
Yeah.
a lot of sand dunes underwater.
Yeah.
So it's a bit way more complicated.
Totally
Actually, if you talk about Vikings, the oldest part of Warsaw might be related to them, or defense against them.
Really? Where is that?
Brudno.
Oh, in Brudno.
Really
That's the oldest
oldest-
part of Warsaw? Brudno?
Yes. Yes.
You're kidding me.
No.
Good old Brudno. I didn't know that. Brudno is on
You should go
the
to-
east. Yeah.
Park there. There is still the old fortifications from really old times, and they're older than Warsaw.
Where is
By
this? In
couple hundred
Brudno
years.
exactly. I'm writing this
In
down.
Brudno Park.
Wow. Okay, that's
In Brudno
fantastic.
Park, you got it.
I'm going to look that up. I'm
Because
going to try
that
to go
part
over there.
was fortified against or by, we're still not sure, because there was a lot of intermeshing of cultures, against or by the Vikings. And and that is the actual oldest part of inhabitation on Warsaw grounds, although it was not called Warsaw at that time, because Warsaw was a village on the other side of the river.
That's amazing. I never heard that, and now I'm fascinated because Brudno, you don't suspect it's going to be that interesting, do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the last place you expect to be interesting in that way.
Yeah, but this is you've got a lot of really interesting influences once you get rid of this, the mindset that this is all Slavic and it must be Slavic. There are people like that.
Yeah, but it's
you've got
such a
Celtic influence,
Come on,
you've got
yeah,
Viking
exactly.
influence, you've got Gothic influence,
yeah.
and there's really interesting, from Biskupin to Brudno to Stettin, all those places to Volyn and Uznam,
Yeah,
which are Slavic centers, and then
yeah.
Vikings were there.
Yeah.
And this is fascinating. And
It really is.
Hansa in Gdańsk,
Yeah.
it's just fascinating, intertwined cultures there. It's fascinating.
No, I agree. I love it actually. This mixing of the cultures and trying to find out, how they mixed in together. Like people think, oh well, this is the border of Poland, but hey, wait a second. It went back and forth.
Yes,
that
it went
border.
back and forth, and I don't
And
see
different
any
kings.
point
Some of the kings were German.
of making
Yeah.
wars now,
Yeah.
because this historically belongs to us. Like it's
Yeah.
one of the most 19th century things about this idiot. What was his name? Vladimir.
Oh, that guy?
It sounds like Voldemort, don't you agree?
Yeah.
So that idiot Voldemort, who
does.
is now discovering historic maps that
Hmm.
this point belonged to us. It must belong to us now.
Yeah, what a creep. What a creep.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to end this first part. We'll be back with more from my good friend, Olgierd Uziemblo. It's always a pleasure to see you, to hear you, Olgierd. I always learn something from you. Okay, let's take a break. Watch these messages, everybody. They're very important to keep us on the air. Buy all these products at least once. Well, if you wish. And we'll see you in a minute.
Borrows me to Poland.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm sure you all enjoyed those advertisements as much as I didn't. Okay, and now we have Olgierd Uziemblo coming to us from...
Hello, sir.
Yeah, you're in beautiful downtown Zambrów. Doesn't get better than that, does it, Zambrów?
It does not get better than that. It's nice weather outside. It's not so hot. It's a bit wet. It's nice.
Right there, you're on the border of Mazowiecka and...
Well, actually, no. Local people know that this is the old Mazowsze, and it has been settled in the 14th and 15th century by people from the guard of the Princess of Mazowsze after the wars with Prusy, which was kind of a Lithuanian-related tribe at that time. Nothing to do with Prussia, because Prussia is German. This is old Balto-Slavic Prussia.
Super.
And well, you, Mr. Vikingson?
You betcha. You betcha.
Mr. Vikingson, you must have a lot of relatives here, because a lot of warriors at those times in the Mazovian Prince Guard were actually Vikings. So if you go and look at the genetic tests, the people here are really related to the people on the above the sea in Sweden.
Well, they'd be my relatives too, because on my father's side, I have the same DNA as, according to the test, as the founder of Stockholm. So there you are.
Interesting.
Which is very specific through my father. Yeah, not my mother's side. Interesting. It's fun
you
to
guys
do
must
things.
be.
What?
You must feel really well to have ancestors like thieves and murderers.
No, I know. I know. I always suspected it. I always suspected it, Olga. You caught me. Now, just to finish off what we were talking about before the break, and then we'll talk some Russian stuff, because the Polish stuff is really interesting that we're getting into this particular program. And unusual stuff we're talking about. Not many people know about these places. I highly recommend that trip along the Odra, as we did from the Czech Republic right to the top at Świnoujście. It's worth doing. And we'll also come back, we're going to talk about Russia and the latest development. We've got to talk a little bit about the latest developments, because Olgierd monitors these things in Russian. Olgierd speaks Russian, writes Russian, and also Chinese. Speaks and writes Chinese. So we like to have Olgierd on to educate me, if not you. I'm sure all of you already know these things, but for me it's a big education when I'm talking to Olgierd. So Olgierd, just to finish off, when you go to Volyn Island from Szczecin, right? The river gets really big, and then it goes into this huge. They call it a lagoon, but it's more like a bay. I mean, it's huge. And the Szczecin Lagoon, they call it. I call it the Szczecin Bay because that's what it looks like to me. And when you get up there, I mean, Międzyzdroje is okay, especially in the evening when there's nobody, or early morning when there's no one on the beach. Then it's quite pleasant. They have some great fish. If you like fish, there's so many places who cook it perfectly. Just little places on the beach.
One of the secrets of Polish seaside is never go there in the summertime.
Never go in the summertime, and don't go in midday. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's the loveliest place if you go there in the winter.
Yeah.
Or like autumn when it's kind of misty.
Autumn.
Kind of mysterious.
Yes.
Kind of quiet, because none of the tourists, like this bad kind of tourist, is not there.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And it's beautiful in the early spring or even March, and in the autumn time, even right up to November.
Międzyzdroje is actually brings another bell in my heart, because when I was around my matura, which is the final exam for the middle school in Poland, which is like your college, I guess, high school?
Yeah, high school.
High school. My entire class we wanted to go to Paris for a final trip, but we couldn't go because one of the girls in our class had the Russian passport, because she was born in Russia. She grew up in Poland. She felt Polish, but she had a Russian passport, so she couldn't go to Paris due to visa issues. So we decided, instead of Paris, to go to Międzyzdroje,
Wow.
because we were in a very friendly class, and we couldn't let her be alone because of a stupid passport.
It's a little
and we
different.
spent there like
Yeah.
entire springtime weekend in Międzyzdroje. It was the really nice, lovely little place, really quiet, with really nice weather, really nice atmosphere. And I remember one thing. I remember meeting there an old guy, blind, who was simply wandering around the city, and he was playing harmonica. It was not for money. He was not a beggar, but I remember sitting and talking to him for like a few hours. Very nice, and nice memories, and nice music.
Yeah, I bet. And you know, if you just go right out of town, just a little way, you can come to a little village called Lubin.
Mm.
And in Lubin is a fascinating little place. I'm going to give these people a reclama right now, an advertisement. You go right to the top where the church is in Lubin, and then walk out, and there's a huge, very high bluff, and they've done excavating of the 12th and 13th century village that was there, and with a tower and a graveyard and a church that was there. It's not been there for a long time, but it was there at that time. And they created a nice cafe there, and you can get some fish, you can eat a nice fish lunch, and have a glass of wine or some coffee or whatever, tea, whatever you like, and look out over the Szczecin Lagoon, this vast, beautiful piece of water. It is one of the most spectacular views in Poland, if not the most spectacular view in this country. It is, breathtaking, really. I loved it there. But only one thing, we were attacked by mosquitoes. And today, my legs are full of welts from mosquito bites, but never mind, it was worth it. It was worth it to get the pictures to bring to the people. Okay. So yeah, we agree that's a great area. And of course, there's the new tunnel that just opened. You don't have to take the ferry, or the prom, as we say in Poland, to go to Świnoujście,
Yep.
which also has beautiful beach and is a pleasant little place on the...
Well, actually, I like Polish Sea. The only problem is it's so crowded in the summertime.
Crowded, and then you never know if it's what the weather's going to be like. It's better to go when you don't expect great weather and be surprised. I find.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but actually, I must tell you that I really like Polish Sea when the weather is bad, because I really like the atmosphere there.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful views of Szczecin or Gdańsk you can get is when it's stormy, windy, darky. It's really beautiful then.
Yeah. I like Sopot in the wintertime, right in the deep
yes.
winter. It's my favorite time.
Sopot, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's my favorite
It's
time.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Really is something. I agree. And that whole area, that whole coast is undiscovered. And as a global, I read one article which struck me as absurd, but they're saying, God, Poland's going to be a great destination in the near future because of global warming or climate change, whatever we want to call it. Down in the southern Europe, it's getting too hot in Spain and Italy. They're going to have to come to Poland.
True.
Got to come to Poland to relax and get some cool weather. All right, let's go to the events of this week, because you monitor things in Russian. I don't speak Russian, can't read Russian. So you are able to monitor Telegram and YouTube and things like that, and what's going on in Russia. What has been, I'll just cap the first subject, which is that this Prigozhin, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the meanest man in the universe, who used sledgehammers on his own soldiers if they didn't do what he presumed was the proper, didn't have the proper behavior. He would just, instead of chopping off their heads, knock them in the head with a sledgehammer. I mean, incredible. I mean, I don't know how. Well, there he is. Look at that face. I mean,
oh, it's a beautiful
look
boy.
at that face. That has got to be one of the ugliest people I've ever seen in my life. I mean, everything is on his face to tell you exactly what sort of
Well,
person
the guy was
he is.
incarcerated for a couple of years for
Yeah.
actual crimes, not like embezzlement of money,
Yeah.
for actually attacking people.
Yeah.
And then he became so-called
Enough
a
of that.
waiter of Putin. He was doing a lot of, because he was doing a lot of work for Leningrad, oh, former Leningrad now, Petersburg crime organizations. He also got involved with Putin, who also started in the very same place.
Right.
And that's why he rose to power together with Uncle Vladimir.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, people are actually making bets. Is he alive? Was it just a staged coup, not a coup, a catastrophe, or it was actually a shooting down of the plane? The funniest part is that the official Russian propaganda will try, actually they already started doing it, to blame the downing of the plane. Embraer is a pretty steady plane, what people say. I don't know, I'm not a specialist in it. To the Ukrainians, and I can't believe that Ukrainians will be able to shoot down a plane on the 8,000 meters over the deep inside the Russian territory.
That's absurd. Of
Like
course Putin
40
did it.
kilometers from Putin's lair, one
Yeah.
of these bunkers.
Yeah.
It's an absurd claim.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's no way.
Even putting a bomb in a well-controlled Petersburg airport, it's rather not possible that they planted a bomb on it, because there are two main theories that the plane went down. One, because of the rocket.
Yeah.
Two, because somebody planted a bomb on the plane, and it's neither of them is, I believe, would be even a bigger shame for Russian services, for secret services, if the Ukrainians did that job.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't see any way the Ukrainians did it. It's entirely within the scope of the usual behavior of Vladimir Putin that he would have done it. I think.
Well, and our last meeting, I believe, was actually 2 months ago.
Yeah.
When Prigozhin was organizing his coup that
Yeah.
he never finished.
Yeah, that's right. You were on that show. And I've been talking to Anthony, who's had a few interesting reports. You know, he works in security, so he gets reports, and he still has top security clearance, by the way. So even though he's not active anymore in the services, he's a veteran now, but he's been saying some interesting things. Not some of those I can't say on the show, but they're not for public consumption. But it's interesting and confirming rather what we're talking about. So, yeah. And also
But
talking...
anyway, yep.
Please, go ahead.
No, the main two theories that I encountered over Russian internet is like, part of the people are just pretty convinced that he's not dead.
Well...
It's all staged.
It seems that
the other part is insisting like, why the hell would he stage that?
Now we're hearing that he was dead, and a few of his lieutenants were with him. So it's not just him; it's his group of close.
By the way, I can't believe that people keep on being as stupid as one of my favorite Polish presidents.
Who is?
I remember when Lech Kaczyński, I really liked him.
Yeah.
Flew to Russia, and he put on the same plane most of his top brass.
That's what you mean.
How can you do it?
I know.
And Prigozhin apparently did the same thing.
He did the same thing.
How can you be that stupid?
And this is interesting, knowing that Putin might have done the other one too. You know, because he'll do anything. We know that by now. So.
Now we know it, but people still will be insisting that that was just I don't want to get
just a coincidence. Let's not go there. We can do another program on that, but that requires very specific research, and you need to really be careful. That's a minefield.
Yeah, I'm a linguist, so I just say that they're using precisely the same way of talking and discourse about both catastrophes. They're using at least 5 different theories that would explain it away.
Yes.
And what is the funniest part? Even here, there are still some of the people joined the Russian government that are insisting this might be either a technical problem or pilot's mistake.
Yeah, they're saying the same thing. But right? That's what you're saying.
They're saying
you
the
know,
same
it's funny because
bunch of things.
It's
bunch
funny.
of things.
You're saying that to me, and my first thought, or one of the first thoughts, you know, when I heard about this shooting down, plane crash, whatever it was, looks like he was shot down, was that they would come out and use the same kind, that it would be compared to the crash of the Polish jet, government jet, that killed Lech Kaczynski.
Yeah, well, the situation is completely different because they were traveling on a really high altitude. And this altitude, from what I gather from all the military experts, American included, is just simply not possible to shoot the plane down with the usual battlefield, local anti-aircraft technology. So you need to use the large ones, the same type that was used to shoot the Dutch one.
The Dutch plane that went down
went down, an MH17 or whatever it was.
It was Singapore Airlines, wasn't it, flying from Holland to Singapore?
Yeah. With a lot of Dutch citizens.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe Holland is now the first country to present F-16s to Ukrainians. No wonder.
Oh, the Dutch are
still... shoot them down, they may be really pissed off.
Oh, they're still angry about that one in Holland. They're not going to get over that one.
Very slow. Very slow, they will get the revenge.
It's incredible.
They'll get the revenge eventually. I'm telling you.
We're living in crazy times.
As much arms and planes and whatever you can.
It's crazy times, isn't it, right now?
It's
very unstable and weird. The news is just full of weird things. So that Prigozhin goes down. This is a major. We'll look back on this as an important historical event related to the rule of Vladimir Putin, both the aborted coup attempt, as well as this.
I'm not sure. You know what?
Oh, I think so.
What
you don't think
might
so?
be even more interesting would be what is happening in South Africa, because apparently BRICS, the organization of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is coming apart at the seams. Not only Putin was speaking in a really strange voice. Of course, he was speaking his usual bullshit, but have you heard his voice?
No.
They apparently forgot to put on a filter. So he was speaking with a non-Putin voice this time.
Oh, that's weird. So an AI
really
voice.
Weird. And as if just to strengthen it up, Xi Jinping was not presenting things himself, but he delegated his minister to say it.
Where's he back in? He's back in Beijing.
Something really weird.
Well, look, here's the thing. This is a really good point. Also, you're making a few good points today. I mean, good Lord, you must have had a good breakfast. And so the United States isn't going anywhere. The United States is only getting stronger, actually, despite itself, despite the craziness. Strategically, it only will get stronger. Still has all the energy reserves.
I can tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Just keep the checks and balances in place. The democracy will work it out, whatever will happen. I believe that
I agree.
It works well.
I agree. And I like to see arguing. When you've got arguing going on, it means your democracy is vital.
It's healthy.
You're supposed to argue.
Healthy.
You're supposed to argue and get to the heart of the matter and everything be out there and talked about in the open. Yeah.
That's something our commie friends do not understand.
Yeah, well, I could say a couple of things about them that I can't say on television. This were YouTube only.
Yeah.
We could get down and dirty. But we've got to keep our gentleman jackets on. And anyway, our dinner jackets on. So, the United States isn't going anywhere. And I think with looking at BRIC, that needs to be remembered. These countries are going to look at which side their bread is buttered on and realize that siding with Russia and China is silly. because the United States has the resources and the industrial might and is now retooling its factories and building new factories right now, all the time. So,
And China is already crying for mercy. Have you noticed? They're putting up on Facebook like, why is America working so hard to reduce dependency on China? Let's work together.
Yeah.
Suddenly, this kind of rhetoric is gaining in what China is putting up to the Western countries.
Wow, that's really,
so
really
must
interesting.
Have hurt. It must have hurt them badly.
Yeah.
The reducing of demand on the Western countries, and that's what we were talking about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
We've been talking about. I've never believed in China because of the type of government and studying their history, that China was the big threat that everybody said it was. Russia, I know, is a threat in its immediate environment, and both of them can be bad actors to some extent in weak countries. But Cuba, for example, or some of the countries in Africa, Central African so-called Republic, where the Chinese are very active, and the Russians. They can have some force in those areas, but they do not travel well. Neither the Russians nor the Chinese have a navy to speak of. They've got 2 aircraft carriers, or 3, or maybe 4 now. 3 or 4 together.
China?
How many does China have? 2 or 1?
None of them is really functional.
Yeah. Okay. And the United States has 20.
Russia has 1 also non-functional.
Right. So they don't have if you don't have a functional navy, you can forget controlling trade, and you can forget.
No, actually, the old-style navy that has proven itself to be kind of useless in the Black Sea.
Also, yeah. Well, there you have it.
And we were saying that from the very sinking of the Moscow.
There you have it. Yeah, which
has proven its.
Yeah. You know, okay, I want to say this. I saw an interview on American television with a fellow called Tucker Carlson, who's really talking defeatist stuff. I mean, here we have the Ukrainians beating the Russia, or holding the Russians at bay, at least causing more Russian casualties, though there have been serious casualties on the Ukrainian side too. We now know that they're pretty high. But the Russians have no long-standing way to take over that country, not with European and American support. And the Ukrainians have used 3 to 5% of what the Americans spend on a defense per year has been given to Ukraine to destroy effectively the Russian might, their army, their political will, and their navy, pretty much.
What was Tucker Carlson saying?
Not bad.
Because
he was saying he had a guest on there called this Colonel McGregor figure, whose claim to fame is to be different, say something different from everybody else, who uses Russian casualty figures, Russian casualty figures for the Ukrainians. He just switches everything around. So if the Russians, people say the Russians have lost 100,000, he'll say that's the Ukrainians. That's exactly his technique. And
I believe the casualties in Ukraine may be quite high, but on the other hand...
Well, they are, but they're not as high as the Russians by a long shot. We know that.
And what is the influence on the morale? I believe Ukrainians are still really high there, even though they are really,
It's their country, they have no choice. That's the way they look at it. If they can take Crimea...
If you remember...
If they can take Crimea, which is coming up, if they can force the Russians at least to be captured there and want to get out, I mean, be desperate to get away, do a sort of Crimea war thing again, then we'll see what happens. But that's the next move. That's the next move.
Well, whatever happens, I think that Ukrainians did enough to keep their country going, whatever shape it will be. And we need to do everything to make Russia a pariah state. Sorry.
Well, they're doing a very good job on their own. We got to finish now. That was a good way to end. Thank you, Olgierd Uziemblo, who always is entertaining and always telling me something I didn't know before. And I'm going to check out the Vikings in Brudno, in Warsaw. That's a great idea. Okay, everybody, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the commentary about Poland and some of our thoughts about what's been happening recently in Russia. And we'll see you next week. Please take care.